what were you doing in the beginning that was just failing epically? When did you realize that you didn't know what was going on?
I pretty much always knew that I didn't know what was going on. From the time I started getting crushes, I started like looking at the girls and they'd like kind of look away.
Because it was creepy.
It was creepy, yeah. Then when everybody else started getting dates, then it became a bit more urgent. It was one thing when nobody was getting any dates, so I was like, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Great.
it's like whatever. Girls hate guys, guys like girls sort of, but not really, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, we're all 7 years old, so who cares anyway? We're just trying to like play with Matchbox cars anyway.
Right.
But then when I was like 15, it got to be a little more urgent because I was like, all right, I'm the last one. I ain't kissed any girls yet. I ain't fucked any girls yet. I ain't gone on any dates yet. Now this is getting serious. So I was like, let me try some stuff to get this handled.
So what did you try in the beginning?
Well,
can you even remember?
Yeah, I remember all of it because it was super premeditated. I really put thought into it.
Okay,
oh,
cool.
Yeah, man.
Are you like an analytical guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was
so you came with the master plan.
Oh, yeah, I had the master plan. Absolutely. I said, I'm going to like try to be good at everything and I'll be an overachiever. Girls will notice me and they'll be interested. So I got good grades. I joined the basketball team. I was really good at basketball. I was captain of the team and all that. I joined a rock band.
Did that work for you? Did that get you where you wanted to be?
No, it didn't work at all.
That's kind of surprising.
Not at all.
Really? You'd think it would totally work.
It sounded like a good plan, right?
Yeah.
Didn't work at all.
Like all the pieces are in place. I'm in a rock band and I'm a captain of the basketball team.
Exactly. Didn't work. Got no cheerleaders, no groupies.
Damn.
No, nothing in between. No, like nothing.
But do you have a normal circle of friends back then too, or were you kind of quiet and shy? Okay, so you were sort of isolated.
Yeah, I was quiet and shy. Had zero social skills and was a total dork. Didn't know how to talk to people.
Okay.
Was socially anxious. I grew up around alcoholism, so I was like kind of scared of everybody. I didn't want to talk to people.
Are you an only child?
No, I have a brother.
Okay.
Yep. So. Just goes to show all that overachieving stuff won't get you anywhere without social skills.
Yeah.
Because that was the piece that was missing.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. And so then what did you do after that? When at that point, when were you like, there must have been a point, you think, after the master plan failed where you're like, okay, what the hell is going on here and how do I fix it?
Got a second master plan.
Okay, master plan number 2.
Yeah.
That's good. Instead of just relegating yourself to, oh, well, this just isn't working for me.
No, I always try something else. So here's the thing. I am an experimental person. I will do more and more experiments until I figure it out. And that is a common theme to my learning that happened the whole time. I mean, from when I was 15 to when I was 28 and actually got good at it, there was an incredible amount of experiments. So that's one thing that your listeners can take and run with. Always experiment and try new things.
Okay.
So now we're on experiment number 2. Experiment number 2 was very simple. Go to a college that was 70% women.
Okay. Which college is that?
It was like a small liberal arts college in Long Island.
One of those.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And how did that work out? Ratios tremendously in your favor.
Right.
So, like, what does that end up being, like 1.5 to 1 or whatever?
Something like
that.
Yeah.
I'm not a math guy.
I mean, it's essentially the same logic as club-going guys, right? There's so many girls there that if I just slip and fall, I'd probably end up having sex with one.
Yeah. Similar logic.
Actually, wouldn't that be 3 to 1? If it's 75% women, that's 3 girls for every guy.
Correct.
Okay, I'm 1.5. Or twice that many. Whatever. So, okay, and how did that work? Or was it like, there's like 10 dudes and they're nailing hundreds of chicks and every other guy's like, what? Why?
It definitely worked better because now I had the odds in my favor, plus I had the like rocker jock thing going.
Yeah. Plus liberal arts, most of those dudes are gay.
Yeah.
or heavy into lit.
Yeah, there was some dorks there. But I really was underachieving. Like, basically the pattern was that girls could get interested in me, like, kind of on a mental level or the theory of it, like, this guy looks good on paper kind of thing.
Sure.
But then when I started talking to them, it blew it.
Right, there were no clit boners going on.
No.
Damn.
No, but, like I said, I continued to experiment and I tried different things. And I tried just kind of getting more aggressive, and I think I had sex with like 2 or maybe 3 girls during college.
Whoa.
Which is not a lot.
No, not for college.
Not for college.
That's like freshman welcome week for a frat guy at a big school.
Yeah. It's pretty appalling when I think back on it to have underachieved that much.
In college, yeah.
It is unfortunate.
Yeah. So, but I continued to experiment.
Good. Okay.
So the next move was go to New York City. right?
Solid. That's where you're from originally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from just outside the city, so me and my brother actually moved to the city.
Yeah.
So that was way harder.
I'm curious as to how you ever thought that would get you laid more.
Yeah, what was up with that move? Like, let me go to one of the most viciously competitive hunting grounds.
Well, I was
like
from half an hour out of the city, like a boring suburb. So
represent me too.
Okay, so I don't know, that just wasn't very exciting, and at least I knew if I went to the city, I would get like a more exciting lifestyle, and I would learn more, and I would have at least a better shot. There was more girls around, but it was way harder.
And there's always the village.
Yeah, there's the village.
Yeah, you can go eat wasted at dark room.
Yes,
nobody cares what you look like after midnight.
That's right. I've been there. I've done that.
Yeah. We've all been there. No, that's the move.
Yep, that's right. So, but it didn't work for me because girls in New York City are just hardcore, and they were like, I mean, I was failing miserably still.
Okay.
And I was used to that whole 70% thing, which now was gone. So my results actually dropped like drastically.
You mean 70% female ratio?
Yeah, right.
That wasn't working for you anymore.
Right, exactly. So coming from college to the real world, my results collapsed.
And your results were limited to begin with at that point. So you were like, oh my God, this is actually worse.
Right. It was way worse because in college, at least I could pursue some girls. I could get some girls on the phone. I had some hope.
There must have been crazy alarm bells going off at that point where you're like, I'm going to die lonely if this keeps up.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was depressing.
Yeah.
That was the most depressing part. That was the ultimate low point. I just decided to kind of stick with it and try to meet girls any way I could. And there was just highs and lows. Sometimes I was able to get a few girls on the phone. I got laid here and there. I can get a girlfriend here and there, but there would be huge dry spells in between and just really erratic results. And I had a degree in psychology at that point, so I was like, I'm just going to get into the psychology behind this. This was like 10 years ago now, so there wasn't really a seduction community at that time.
Right, it was just like dudes on message boards, maybe if you're lucky, and most of them were talking about hypnosis at that point.
Right, and I didn't even know that they existed. I didn't even have a computer at that time.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, a lot of people didn't.
Yeah, I didn't have a computer.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The internet was like, people didn't have internet back then a lot of time.
Yeah.
So what year are we talking here?
2000?
We're talking like 2000, 2001.
Sure.
I didn't even get a computer till 2000, like late 2004, early 2005.
That was a turning point for you, obviously. Or were you?
No, it wasn't. No, not at all, because I didn't have any ebooks. I didn't have any seminars. I didn't know about the seduction community.
There were no coaches back then.
There were no coaches. This was before Neil Strauss and The Game and all that stuff.
Right.
There was nothing for me. So the only stuff I was really looking for was run-of-the-mill mainstream psychology type stuff. Self-help books, like traditional self-help books.
Tony Robbins and stuff?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Like Robert Cialdini's The Psychology of Influence or Persuasion and stuff like that.
Stuff like that. And I found a few good books. I found this one book called No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Robert Glover, Dr. Glover?
Yeah,
He's been
Glover.
On the show.
Oh, he has?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys know Dr. Glover?
Totally.
You're my idol.
You should get the interview. It's a good interview.
That's cool.
We went, it was like 2 hours long.
Wow.
We went through the whole book.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of him. And that book was the turning point. Absolutely. Completely the turning point. All the other stuff, didn't really get me there. Or maybe it was the tipping point, maybe not the turning point.
Right.
The point at which it turned around.
Exactly. So I was like, oh my God, I got nice guy syndrome. I'm kissing all these girls' asses. I'm not dominant. I'm not being direct with them. I'm being too much of a pussy.
Not setting boundaries.
Right. All the whole thing. Making covert contracts, blah, blah, blah. So that was it. So once I got that book, I was kind of reading it really close. And there's this one part of the book that made me behave differently. He says something like, I don't remember what it is. He says, hey, if you really want to meet women and have sex, you don't have to go be nice to everyone and kiss their ass. Just go flirt with girls every day. Hit on girls everywhere you go. You can do that if you want. It's not like it's illegal or something.
Right.
So once I read that, I was like...
Yeah, you got like permission.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, I got the green light. And like I said, I'm an experimental person. And I said, I'm going to do a new experiment now where I'm going to hit on girls every day. I'll hit on 20, 30 girls every day. That's the plan. That was the new master plan.
Right. This one seems a lot more sound.
Exactly. Yeah. Wait, taking action? Okay, fine. I guess I'll do that.
Hitting on girls to get laid? Might work.
Yep, so that's what I did. So I would just go out and hit on maybe 15, 20 girls.
Just like on the street, like, hey, you're really hot, or like what?
On the street, in a bar, anywhere. I had no concept of like what's day game and what's night game. People think in those terms now. I was just like hit on 20 girls wherever.
Sure.
You know? So, yeah, I didn't have any like structure or openers or anything.
Yeah, but you probably learned a lot.
Yeah, that's where I learned it all. That's where I learned everything. Because even when I came to the part where I had gotten really good, I still had just gotten a computer and I didn't have any ebooks and I didn't know there was a seduction community and Neil Strauss's book wasn't out yet and there was no TV show and none of that stuff had happened yet. So I had just gone out and hit on girls for like a year straight and I had learned so many things, you know. I mean, yeah, in the beginning it was like, hey, you're really hot, or like, what are you up to? Where are you going? Like,
right.
And when that stuff didn't work, I would just try more and more crazier stuff. And it would just be a new experiment every week.
You have any particularly funny lines that you remember that you tried?
Well, all the ones that actually worked, I still use, and I teach to people.
Fair enough,
Like the horse girl line is from that era.
Yeah, what's with the horse girl? Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Because
What would you like to know, young man?
I was looking at your website, and I figured, check out what we're talking about, and I was reading through your blog a little bit, and so there's, blog posts about dating and stuff like that, and I'm like, all right. And then there was one post that goes, the horse girl has returned, and it was a photo, clearly a screenshot from the phone of a chick who looks like Rainbow Bright with a pony that looks like it's had its hair dyed. And there was no context for it. It just said the horse girl is back. And I was like, what is this about? So basically what I want to know is, what's that about?
All right, this is what it's about. The horse girl line is my infamous line that everybody knows. People who don't even know who I am or barely know my name know the horse girl line. Mm-hmm. People know the horse girl line and do it and don't even know I invented it in some cases. So this is an infamous pickup line that's deadly effective. There's nothing like it. There'll never be anything like it again. And I will teach it to you now.
This is like the lolcats of of the pickup world right here. We're getting a lolcat, a meme is born.
Yeah, I think I've heard of the line, but you probably, of course, you're going to do it way better.
Sure.
It's like a whole thing, though. Can we do the thing?
Yeah, let's do the thing.
Let's get the thing.
All right. So here it is. So you would go up to the girl and you would say, hey, do you like horses? And she would say, yes, no, maybe, whatever. Okay, check it out. When I was in the 6th grade, there was this girl, and she loved horses. She loved them more than anything. And she had a horse on her binder, and she had a horse coloring book, and every Halloween she would dress up as a horse and run around making horse noises. And we used to call her the weird horse girl. And you look just like her. So at this point, the girl will be like, you're a jerk, screw you, or she'll say, yes, I'm the horse girl, or she'll say, what are you talking about?
You really get adverse reactions where girls are like, you're being a jerk? How is that being a jerk? I don't get it.
So sometimes the girls aren't listening that close.
I could see that, and I mean in the delivery, really, if you said that deadpan and you said you look like the weird horse girl.
Oh, because you said weird horse girl, right? Okay, yeah, being weird, not good. Got it.
Some girls don't listen that close, and they're like, are you saying I look like a horse?
Oh, snap.
Are you saying I have a horse face? You get all kinds of... Yeah. That's rare as long as you deliver it well, but if the girls aren't paying attention, they'll take it the wrong way. So
now,
then,
is that true? Was there the horse girl?
There was a girl that was really into horses in my school.
Yeah.
It wasn't as extreme as I'm kind of making it now.
Sure.
But, and she was the nerdy girl, and she was really weird.
Okay.
But there's more to the story.
There's more. Yeah.
Okay.
So the girl's going to give you...
I'm still not done.
So, yeah, the girl's going to give you some reaction, and you'll say, all right, hold on. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry for all the times I made fun of you, because I was the bully, and I was the cool kid, and I used to tease you, and it was mean, and, I'm trying to be a nicer person, so I don't want to, hurt anybody's feelings anymore. Could you ever forgive me for making fun of you? So at this point, it becomes a role play.
A role play, yeah,
right.
Okay. So wait, there's more though, or do we?
No, that's it for horse girl.
That's it for horse girl. So then, where does that usually take it? If you're like, I'm sorry for all the times that I was,
you're in the role
trying
play
to be a nice guy. So you're in the role play, but where does that usually go?
The girl knows it's a joke. The girl is having fun. Where does it go?
Usually, yeah. In your experience, where does that go? And how long do you take that? Because I can see dudes being like, they're laying into this horse thing for like an hour, and the girl's like, what's going on? We're still doing this?
No, it's like, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that might be a common mistake. Our guys are just doing that all night long and
I haven't really seen that much.
Never seen that happen?
No. I've seen a lot of screw-ups.
Seen a lot of mistakes.
Haven't seen that one.
What's the most common mistake that you see with that one?
Let's see. Well, I'd say the most common mistake is that people expect that it's just going to work every time and the girl's just going to automatically have sex with you. Like, they just have way too much expectations for the opener.
Okay, right.
It does a lot, but what it actually does is kind of part of a bigger plan. What I learned when I was going out every day and hitting on girls, I learned that you don't need every single girl to like you. What you need is for a few girls to be wildly, insanely attracted to you, a few girls to hate you, and nothing in between. Because anything in between is going to put you in the friend zone, which is going to cause a lot of wasted time, and it's going to have you on the phone and chasing a lot of dead leads. So my whole thing when I was learning is stay out of the friend zone, stop wasting time. So I created a style which was polarizing and would make girls either love me or hate me.
So get a strong emotional reaction, doesn't matter what it is, because then at least you know you've pushed the limits.
Yeah, that's pretty close, yeah. So if I do the horse girl 10 times, I might have 5 girls really dig me and 5 girls absolutely hate me. Mm-hmm. So that's eureka, that's success, that's utopia. Because I'm not trying to please everyone, I'm trying to get laid. Mm-hmm. And you get laid by forcing girls to get in or out. Mm-hmm. And so having 5 girls highly attracted to you is the best thing you can hope for.
Right.
You know, you're never going to get every girl. You're not going to open every set. You're going to get blowouts sometimes. And if you try to avoid that stuff, you're probably just being a pussy. So you're not going to get laid anyway. Mm-hmm. So my whole thing was to become polarizing and do something that's going to be really fun and really funny. And then I'll weed out the girls who are really fun and flirty from the girls who like have no sense of humor, don't get the joke. They're going to be a drag for me later anyway. You know, I'm going to like phone game them for 4 months to get a date.
God.
So I don't want to do all that. So the intention is to create a polarization of all my interactions for the night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever run into problems where you piss off enough girls that it like the venue sours a little bit or the night sours a little bit?
Nope.
So it seems like, because these are what guys are afraid of, right? Yeah. They're afraid of, well, if I make girls mad, the whole night's going to get fucked up. They're going to chase me out of here. I'm going to get kicked out, or all the girls are going to hate me, or it's going to be embarrassing, or I can't see those girls anymore. But I'm betting that when things don't go well, if you see that girl the next week, she doesn't even remember you anyway.
She may remember it. She probably won't really care. Girls have been hit on so many times, they're just like immune to it at this point. She's heard way worse stuff than the horse girl. She has a bunch of guys coming up like, can I buy you a drink?
Asking her to do porn.
Want to do porn. Yeah. Like, can I please fuck you tonight? Like, all kinds of retarded stuff.
Brutal.
So the horse girl's not really like going to shock anyone, you know?
True.
Even though I call it the shocker. It's not really going to shock her to the point where she's going to like try to get you thrown out. It really doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
These guys who are afraid of these nightmare scenarios, the reason they're afraid is because they've never gone out.
They're visualizing wildly inconceivable worst case scenarios in their head.
Yeah.
Instead of actually finding out that no one gives a shit when you fail.
Yeah, when you're in your bedroom in front of your laptop, it seems like you'd get kicked out for something like this. But when you're in a bar or in the street or wherever you're doing it, in real life, obviously it would never happen.
No, exactly. So now we've kind of got a good handle on your learning process when you were unsuccessful. So now that you're successful, we sort of jumped the shark a little bit and went through the horse girl thing. But now that you're successful, how are your experiments? How is your master plan different from when you were younger and you had this like crappy master plan that failed to now when you're sort of, or even just recently, when you're sort of honing a skill set that's working for you and working for your students? How is your learning process different? How are those experiments different? What do you work on as opposed to making yourself the captain of the basketball team, becoming a rock star, hitting on 20 chicks? What do you work on beyond that? What are you sort of tweaking?
Well, in my game, it's only really fine-tuning. At this point, my game brings me more women than I could ever really deal with. I can't have sex with all those women or date them. There's not enough time in the day.
Right.
So now, if I'm working on anything like new, it's usually related to teaching.
Yeah,
and it has been for the last few years.
But let's rewind a little bit then. So if you're not, let's assume that you're not teaching and you're just trying to get good because you're at the point between, okay, now this is starting to work. What were you working on then? How did your learning process change when you started getting good? What were you working on when you started getting success? What were you like, okay, now I need to refine this. Now I'm hitting on 20 girls. What then were you refining?
So first, it was just the approaching and getting a number, and then, obviously getting her to meet up for a date. That took a long time to figure out for me, especially with no coaching and no books or anything.
Okay.
I did have some naturals that I was learning from, so that was helpful, but they're kind of tough to learn from.
Yeah, because you really have to decode what they're doing because they can't do it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm a blues musician, so I go and I play some guitar. And if you're not a music guy, then you're like, shit, do I have to learn guitar? That's why a lot of guys think they need to learn magic tricks, because they saw Mysteries TV show and they're like, well, magicians must get chicks, so now I got to learn magic or illusions.
Which
or I've got
I would say is a fallacy.
Member.
I don't think magicians get chicks
more
than anyone else.
They don't. But I mean, they're like, I have to become a rock star, or I have to. Another one that's more common is I have to be a rich guy to get girls, because they see other rich guys doing that. So they're like, oh, that must be the key. But they don't realize that half of rich guys aren't getting any girls, and a third of the half that is are paying for it dearly, and the other guys who are rich are rich because they have a high level of confidence and competency, which they also happen to have with girls, which they probably had before they were wealthy.
Yeah.
But that aside, so when you were starting to get dates and get numbers, what's a good example of... So you said you were getting stuck because you'd get a number and then you'd have to work hard for the date. That's pretty normal, obviously. Yeah. We see lots of guys who are like, I got tons of numbers, and they're like, oh, crap, I had this huge victory. Now I'm stuck trying to get dates. How did you overcome that? What did you do when you had the number to try and move towards dates that started to work for you versus getting flaked on?
Well, first of all, I would say it's harder now than it was 7 years ago, 8 years ago when I was doing this.
Why?
Because the information environment has changed. It's so much easier to get phone numbers now because girls are just... They'll give you their number and they'll just put in caller ID and just never pick up.
Yeah.
And they'll just never reply to text, and that's it. Back then, it was like if somebody gave you a number, it was a little more meaningful, and there was a higher chance that they would...
Because you had to call their house.
You had to call them.
Yeah, you had to call their house, and their parents would
maybe
answer
talk
and be
to
like,
their
what?
parents.
Yeah.
You know, some people had cell phones, but even then, it's like you wouldn't just ignore calls constantly like people do now, you know? So I don't think I had it as hard as people have it now. But basically, it was kind of a routine for me, you know. Monday, Tuesday, I would game and do cold approaches. Wednesday, phone game all day. Hopefully Thursday, Friday, and Saturday would be dates, but if not, I would fill it in with phone game all day or approaching or, you know, I don't...
How long were you staying on the phone with these girls when you were chatting with them?
Well, like 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Yeah, okay.
So what are some things that guys can start to use right away? Like, guys are like, okay, crap, let's assume that they're approaching. Let's assume that they're getting numbers and even dates. Actually, you know what? Let me back up. What are some things that you would like to tell the guys that they can use right away? I mean, it can relate to anything. Maybe some guys are afraid to approach, or maybe some guys are approaching and it's not working for them.
Well, let's start at the beginning, right? We'll start with guys who are still afraid to approach. What's your response to dealing with that?
How do you get your ass in gear? How do you motivate?
Well, here, you know, my approach may be a little different from what you guys do, but I give them 2 openers. So, yeah, and if guys are at a workshop, you know, we can usually get them to approach. It's not that hard in real life. If they're home and
that's
they can
kind of what I'm wondering, because, you know, sometimes we do phone coaching and stuff. Guys, like, for instance, I was talking to a guy recently, and he's like, well, you know, I tried to go out and do these approaches, but, like, I couldn't get myself to actually do the approach.
Yeah, I've come up with a little workaround for that. This is something we use in the 30-30 Club in month 2. We call it baselining. And what baselining in it is it's basically a test of what's going to happen when you approach. So you go do 30 approaches, and you just kind of count how many blowouts, how many conversations last 5 minutes or more, 5 minutes or less, and how many phone numbers. And the only reason you do them is to get the data. And that way, the next month, you can test again and see if your results are improving. So you always use that as a baseline to compare to as you go 1 month to the next, to the next, to the next. So it's basically test approaches rather than real approaches.
It sounds like you're trying to remove the emotional component by making it more about the numbers that you're getting versus actually you having to go up and talk to someone.
Well, we're trying to lower the stakes. It's not a high-stakes game. Nobody's really going to reject you personally. You can never remove the emotion from it. That's impossible. But what you can do is lower the stakes. And that's what we try to do.
So what type of do you change the opener that they're supposed to do? Like if they're saying, oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing the horse girl.
Well, yeah, they have a huge choice of openers. We have like hundreds of openers.
I see.
They can use anything they want. And they can even use something, that's not from my material if they want.
So you don't particularly care what they say as long as they go out and try it?
Yeah, I'm not super picky on what they do is, in the beginning. I'll get pickier later if what they're doing isn't working.
Right.
I'm for anything that works, and if a guy comes in and he's doing something that works, I'm not going to change it. I'm going to just try to enhance it.
Okay. Yeah. So what can guys do right away to motivate themselves then? Can guys baseline themselves? Can guys get out there and do their own thing?
Yeah, I think people can baseline themselves, yeah. Yeah, and if they're an extreme example of a keyboard jockey, I have something for that too. I have a little suggestion.
Okay, so what if you're like, I'm addicted to typing crap out on the internet on forums. How do I get out there and start the process?
This is how you do it. You find somebody who's a real good friend of yours, and you take your laptop charger, and you give it to your friend, and you say, hold on to this until I've reached the following goal. Maybe it's 100 approaches, or until I get laid, or whatever that goal is. Just hold on to this laptop charger until I reach the goal. Don't give it back to me.
I like it.
It's a little extreme.
Maybe, it is extreme.
Maybe you're scared. What if I miss that email?
Yeah.
Well, what if you never get laid?
Yeah.
Fuck the email.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, we've got a couple questions from students actually as well.
Super.
One of our listeners asks something called sexy stereotyping. Does that ring a bell for you? Because that's something that I don't necessarily know about.
That's one of my theories.
Okay, so can you explain briefly what that is?
Sure. So we live in a society now that's heavily influenced by the media.
Uh-huh.
And even when girls are growing up and they're just starting to have sexual thoughts, they're heavily influenced by the media, and the media shows them pictures of guys and video of guys and says, this is sexy, this is what you should be attracted to, this is a sex symbol. And so by the time a girl is old enough to date, or she's 18 or 20 years old, she has certain visions in her head of what a sexy guy is. And she has had crushes in the past on certain kinds of guys. Maybe she's had a crush on a sitcom actor, or a punk rock musician, or
the kid from Everybody. What is it? Malcolm in the Middle.
Could be.
Guy.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber. Good example. So by the time a girl is of age to kind of be, in our target demographic, she has an idea in her head of what a sexy guy is.
Mm-hmm.
And when she gets approached by a new guy, generally women don't take very much time to get to know all your nuances when you first approach them and all about your personality.
Okay.
They just look at you and they're quick yes or no.
Because they're filtering for that.
They're filtering, yeah. So one way that you can use all of these pre-existing conditions to your advantage is to be the sexy stereotype that triggers that crush in her. And this is actually pretty simple to do because you don't really have to learn a whole lot about pickup to do this. You don't have to learn you don't have to improve your inner game or do any super hard work.
So you don't have to do anything that's difficult and will actually improve you as a person.
No, you don't.
All right, cool.
No. All you really have to do is become aware of fashion and of sexy stereotypes and become familiar with one that's kind of reflected in your identity. So if you love rap music, well, being a rapper is one sexy stereotype that women get attracted to.
So you should, if you're white, you should roll Eminem style, or do you want to go like Warren G, just go way out there?
Well, good question.
But you could be like Dirt Nasty if you're out here in L.A. Or just
you could
fuck
be.
it.
Yeah,
I'm going Dirt Nasty.
So basically, you're going to pick a type and just discover what their fashion is, and then wear that exact same thing. So when you go up to a girl, you're going to trigger that crush. And let me give you a more concrete example of this, because I developed this theory because it was happening to me in real life. And it was an easy way to get laid that I thought people could learn who didn't have their inner game together and didn't have a lot of other things working for them. One night I was in a bar, and I was hanging out with some people. And there was a girl who was a friend of one of the girls I had approached, and she got really aggressive. And I didn't know why. And then we had sex 15 minutes later.
It was a girlfriend of some dude that you had met?
No. I approached a girl.
Okay.
And this girl kind of came into the mix a little later.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you said she was a girlfriend of some dude. I was like,
No.
whoa. No. All right.
No.
Misunderstanding.
So after we had sex, we started talking a little bit. And she said she had this big crush on Trent Reznor. Do you guys know who that is?
The guy from Nine Inch Nails.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the time, my look was kind of similar to his. I don't
sort of industrial gothy.
Yeah, sort of industrial gothy. I had black hair about the same length as his. I would dress similar. Now, I don't actually look like that guy.
Right.
But I was dressed the same.
So the triggers were pulled.
The triggers were pulled because you know what? Trent Reznor's not coming to that bar that night.
Right.
So I was
You're the closest
thing. Right.
So that association was solid.
Right, exactly. And I was able to coast through the rest of the interaction and do the right keno and not do anything horribly wrong and recognize the opportunity and go for it.
Nice.
So I didn't have to game very hard. I didn't have to know a whole lot.
Yeah, you pretty much had to just be there and not mess it up.
Be there, not mess it up, be aggressive, and recognize the opportunity. So I said, whoa.
Yeah.
You know,
nice.
Somebody with a lot less game could have done this.
Now, are you sexy stereotyping yourself right now?
No, I don't really.
I mean, not that I would expect you to do it for me and Jordan.
Right. I don't really do it anymore because at this point I just wear the stuff that I think is cool. I don't really care if girls go for it or not. You know, it's like
you don't need that sort of as a crutch anymore, you think, or?
Well, I think of it as a filter, personally. I mean, I've always been kind of in that camp of I'll wear what I want to wear because
right, but the sexy stereotyping is kind of a crutch, though. Like if you have to go and sort of gravitate towards something, like you were saying, Alex, less of what, because that's less authentic to be sexy stereotyping because you're sort of like, I'm going to fit into the Vin Diesel mode.
Yeah.
But now if you're like, fuck it, I don't care, I'm going to wear what I want, then you're screening in people who are going to be more in alignment with what you're looking for.
Yeah, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because at this point in my life, I'm trying to have less girls.
Okay, so you're screening out girls by...
You're just screening them out, period.
I just have
That's why you got the members only, because that's what you're rolling.
That's what I like.
It's almost like a challenge now. It's like, how much can I put the girl off and she will still be chasing?
I just need some peace and quiet. I got too many chicks. I wish they'd leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
Must be hard. Okay, so the question is, does sexy stereotyping work if you're in a venue with lots of people who also meet that stereotype? For example, if you're a Wall Street guy and you're in the meatpacking district on, Thursday, or if you're a rocker guy and you're in a rocker venue, how do you avoid your stereotype blending in? Do you just do the same thing but better, or do you try and be like throwing some juxtaposition there?
It still should work. Even if lots of other people are doing it.
Because girls who are going to those venues, now that I think about it, girls who are going to those venues are like, we're going to Stone Street to look for investment and finance douchebags. Mm-hmm. So if you are one of those guys, then you're in their target demo.
Yeah, so it still should work.
It should definitely work.
Yeah, I think it's like if you're in with it, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's a shortage of women out there.
Yeah, if you go to Stone Street and you're dressed like a rock star in Stone Street in New York with all the finance guys during happy hour, you might get some girls because you stand out, but
that actually would work too. But it works for a different reason.
Right.
Way, yeah.
It works because even those girls who are looking for the investment banker still have that soft spot.
Right.
For Billy Joe from Green Day.
Exactly.
It doesn't go away just because they're logically thinking I need to get a money guy. That doesn't change what they emotionally
respond to. Right.
Exactly.
All right. That's a good question, actually.
Yeah. Interesting.
If a girl isn't blowing, this is another question. If a girl isn't blowing you out, but isn't giving you much to work with, we've all had those too, where they're kind of like, okay, and they're sort of showing interest, but they're not giving you anything. What's the best way to respond?
Best thing to do is try to get her in or out. So you should escalate your Keno a lot more.
To screen in whether or not she's with the program.
Right. And you should also do some like harder teasing and like more intense flirting. Basically, you need to step everything up a little, and that should get her in or out, hopefully.
Right, because she'll either be like, okay, I can't take this and bounce.
Right.
Or she'll be like, oh, I get it. It's on.
Right.
So here you are.
Right. And both of those are desirable scenarios.
Yes.
Because if she bounces, then you're free to go look for the next one, which is fantastic.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than you're there the whole night and you're sort of maintaining on the edge and you're like, well, we're holding hands, so I think I'm good. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you're like, at the end of the night, you're like, so let's go back to my place. And she's like, what? Because you totally just jumped the shark.
That's the terriblest.
Yeah, that's my story of my life. Definitely done that a bunch of times. Is just sort of like
I've done it so many times myself. I haven't done it in years, but it used to happen to me all the time, and it made me so mad.
Because you get to a point where you're like, shit, I'm almost there. Okay, don't screw it up, because then you'll have to start over. But then you don't realize that you're at the ceiling of what she's willing to go for at that point.
That's right.
And then you just end up finding out the hard way because you got Facebook friended. That's as far as you got.
It's better to find out at 11:30 than at 2:30.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Say you're not going for a super rapid pull. What do you do after the first few minutes? So other models might call this the comfort phase. In particular, you use a lot of outrageous humor in your approaches. Does that tend to continue at the same level throughout the interaction, or do you tone it down?
I tone it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a misconception. Somewhere along the way, people got the idea that I was a nonstop maniac of silly jokes and craziness. But then they come to the workshop, and some of what I do is actually kind of low-key and a little smoother.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly why that happened, but the point is that your game has to be calibrated. So I try to always make sure my game is calibrated. if I'm acting crazy and being really funny, that's to kind of get the girl initially interested. And some girls are really keying in on that. So in that case, I'll continue to do that because it's working. But usually it gets to the point where the girl's interested. And let's see, I guess he's asking about some kind of more like later in the game. What I try to do is just get the girl to talk and then just listen. Empathetic listening is something that I use a lot in my game.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of guys think like, oh, okay, well, there's all this outrageous crap going on. Tease. But then they're like, oh, why didn't this work? I'm not going for the rapid pull. They have no comfort and they're screwed.
Yeah. Well, I don't really do like a forced comfort. I think if you're trying for comfort too hard, you make things uncomfortable.
You're also going to be like friendly, like friend zone guy, or you're going to be kind of creepy.
Right.
Like
overdoing
really
the comfort can be bad. So if I want a girl to be comfortable, that's actually really easy as long as you have attraction. To me, comfort building is attraction plus the passage of time. If a girl's attracted to you, she already wants you. She already wants to be with you. So all she needs is just to like go through her own process, and she'll do her own autopilot of comfort, and you just have to wait for that to play out
to the point where she feels safe enough to to escalate more.
Yeah, it's just passage of time mostly. Yeah.
Alex, did you want to say something in there earlier?
Well, I was just thinking about how that ties in with like self-disclosure and stuff like that. So it seems like you're kind of on the side of, I'll just kind of let her run her thing. If she asks or whatever, then that's cool, but you won't really push the issue of telling her about you, for instance.
Well, that's got to be calibrated. There's no one rule on who should be divulging what and when. You really have to take that on a case-by-case basis, in my opinion.
Fair enough, yeah. I guess the other thing that I was curious about is, when do you kind of know that, like, if you could simplify, like for this guy, if you could simplify, when do you know that it's time to move on from the banter? When do you know that it's time to smooth it out a little and to start listening and to really pay attention?
Well, if the girl starts talking a lot, you should start listening a lot. It's pretty simple.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, respond in equal parts, listening.
Girls won't talk a lot if they're not interested. So
Sure.
once they're talking a lot, they're generally trying to prove themselves.
Right, they're qualifying themselves, yeah.
So
you kind of just keep the banter until she starts talking.
Well, yeah, also, I don't really see it in exact phases, I guess, the way a lot of people are. Like, once you're done with banter, you now must go into listening.
Right,
it's not that exact
it all
for me.
blends together, yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's like every step of the way has to be calibrated and has to be it's something you just learn from years of field experience. Like, if you're teasing a lot in the beginning and then you stop, that doesn't mean you stop forever. You might throw that zinger of teasing back again 40 minutes later.
Sure.
If it makes sense and it's well calibrated, it's going to work.
Spikes the attraction up a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of keeps things there's a little edge to the interaction.
Right. Yeah. Everybody wants some 15-step formula that they can do, and it's going to work the same every time.
Not going to happen.
No, in the real world, it just absolutely doesn't work that way. You have to put in your time. You have to learn calibration. There's no way around it.
Got it. And last question from our listener here says he's eager to know what you've been up to lately, what you're working on for the future. Where are things with your sort of game, with your social dynamics training, where are those going in the future?
Okay. In my own game, I mean, like I said, I'm just really happy with where my game is right now. I kind of don't want to change a thing. If I just keep it where it's at, I'm going to be the happiest guy in the whole wide world. So that's...
Are you trying to get married and start a family at some point in your life, or are you just over it?
I might want to have kids at some point. I don't think I want to get married because there's a lot of legal consequences to that these days. It's
especially in California.
Yeah, it's a really dangerous thing,
Yeah.
I've taught a lot of divorced guys, and most of them, if they're in their late 40s, they've been completely financially wiped out and emotionally devastated.
Yeah. It's hard to start over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel so bad for those guys, and I've seen it so many times. I feel like marriage has gotten a little bit irrelevant in our world, and any guy who's successful is in most cases getting a really raw deal and going into a really risky situation if he's
getting
entering
married.
Yeah, not because of the life commitment. I'm all for that. I'm all for love, and I'm all for staying together forever and growing old together. I think that's great stuff. It's the involvement of the judicial system and the legal contract and the government involvement is pretty scary. So I don't want to mess with all those folks.
Okay, got it.
As far as what's going on in my program and what I'm working on, I'm finally putting out an inner game program in a couple weeks, so I'm working on that right now. I just finished up putting together my second pickup mansion. Basically what I try to do in my teaching is I want to teach the guys who really want to learn, and I don't really want to waste my time with any keyboard jockeys. You know, they'll buy my ebooks and maybe they'll graduate to the next level of being more involved, and then I want to deal with them. But I really want to deal with the most serious students. I can't train everyone in the world. I can't keep up with everyone who wants to train with me. I have to
be selective.
Yeah, I have to be a little bit selective. So the guys that I want to train are the guys who will commit to learning this. So I'm really most interested in dealing with the more dedicated students at this point. And I still do some one-on-ones that are 1 or 2 days, and I do the occasional workshop that's open to the public. But generally, it's better for me and my teaching to deal with more motivated students.